Captain Daniel Ward stood on the bridge of the UESF Intrepid, a seasoned officer with a reputation for leading successful missions. The holographic display before him showed the fleet's trajectory toward the Galactic Council's capital, Ardentia. The Council had declared an emergency, and rumors were swirling about the impending arrival of human warships. "Captain Ward, incoming transmission from the Galactic Council," Lieutenant Avery reported, her voice tense. "Put it through," Daniel replied, bracing himself. The image of Counselor Varn appeared, his expression filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "Captain Ward, we have detected a large fleet of human warships heading toward Ardentia. We need to know your intentions immediately." Daniel's eyes hardened. "Counselor, our intentions are to secure peace and stability. However, we will not back down from a fight if provoked." Varn's face paled. "You don't understand. The Council is on high alert. Any aggressive move will be seen as an act of war." Daniel remained resolute. "We are here to prevent a greater conflict. I suggest you prepare for our arrival." The transmission ended, leaving an air of tension on the bridge. Daniel turned to his crew. "Prepare for any eventuality. We need to be ready to defend ourselves if necessary." As the fleet approached Ardentia, the planet's defense systems activated. The skies were filled with patrol ships and orbital platforms, all trained on the incoming human fleet. Daniel watched the display, noting the defensive positions. "Hold formation," Daniel ordered. "We're not here to start a war, but we will defend ourselves if attacked." The Intrepid led the fleet into orbit around Ardentia, their presence a powerful reminder of humanity's strength. Counselor Varn appeared on the comms again, his voice tinged with desperation. "Captain Ward, you are surrounded. Stand down and prepare to be boarded." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Negative, Counselor. We are here to negotiate. Any hostile action will be met with force." The tension was palpable as the human ships maintained their position. Suddenly, an alarm blared, signaling an incoming attack. Draken ships, taking advantage of the chaos, had entered the system and were moving to strike both the human fleet and the Council's defenses. "Draken ships incoming," Lieutenant Avery shouted. "They're targeting both us and the Council forces." Daniel's jaw tightened. "All units engage the Draken. Protect the Council and our fleet. We need to show them we're on the same side." The space around Ardentia erupted into chaos as human and Council ships joined forces against the Draken invaders. Laser fire and missile trails crisscrossed the void, creating a deadly dance of destruction. "Focus on their command ships," Daniel ordered. "We need to disrupt their coordination." The human fleet moved with precision, their firepower overwhelming the Draken attackers. The Council ships, initially wary of the humans, soon found themselves relying on their strength and expertise. As the battle raged on, Daniel's tactics began to turn the tide. The Draken forces, unprepared for the combined might of the human and Council fleets, started to falter. "Captain Ward, this is Counselor Varn." The transmission crackled through the comms. "We appreciate your assistance. Let's drive these invaders out together." Daniel nodded, a slight smile crossing his face. "Understood, Counselor. Let's finish this." With renewed vigor, the combined forces pressed their advantage. The Draken ships, unable to withstand the onslaught, began to retreat. The humans and the Council had won the day, but at a great cost. The battlefield was littered with the wreckage of destroyed ships. Both human and Council forces had suffered significant losses, but they had managed to repel the Draken invasion. Counselor Varn's image appeared once again on the Intrepid's screen, his expression now one of respect and gratitude. "Captain Ward, we owe you a debt of thanks. Your intervention saved many lives today." Daniel nodded. "We're all in this together. Our goal has always been to protect the galaxy from threats like the Draken." Varn's gaze softened. "Perhaps it's time we reconsider our stance on human involvement in the Galactic Council. We clearly have much to gain from working together." The realization of their shared victory began to shift perceptions. While the Council had always been wary of human military power, seeing it in action against a common enemy helped to bridge the gap of distrust. The sight of human and Council ships fighting side by side was a powerful image that resonated throughout the galaxy. Daniel and his crew worked tirelessly to assist in the recovery efforts. Rescue pods were dispatched to retrieve survivors from the wreckage, and medical teams from both sides tended to the wounded. "Captain, we found survivors from one of the Draken ships," Lieutenant Avery reported. "They're being brought on board for interrogation." Daniel's interest peaked. "Good. We need to find out what their next move is and how we can prevent another attack. The Draken prisoners were brought to the interrogation room, guarded closely by armed security. Daniel and Counselor Varn approached the leader, a fierce-looking Draken commander who eyed them with contempt. "Commander, your attack has failed. It's time you told us everything you know about your plans," Daniel said firmly. The Draken commander snarled but remained silent. Varn stepped forward, his tone more diplomatic. "Commander, your forces are in disarray. Cooperate with us and you might find some leniency." The Draken's eyes flickered with a mix of defiance and fear. Finally, he spoke. "You may have won this battle, but the war is far from over. Our leaders have plans that you cannot even imagine." The information gleaned from the Draken commander was disturbing. There were whispers of a new Draken weapon, one that could tip the balance of power in their favor. "Captain Ward, we've intercepted communications about a Draken superweapon," Lieutenant Avery reported. "If they deploy it, it could devastate entire planets." Daniel's expression darkened. "We need to find and neutralize this threat before it's too late." The Council approved a joint task force to investigate the Draken weapon. Daniel was appointed to lead the mission, with Counselor Varn providing political support. Their intelligence led them to a remote, heavily fortified asteroid base deep within Draken space. The base was believed to be the development site for the superweapon. Daniel and his team devised a daring plan to infiltrate the base and gather intelligence on the weapon. "Captain, this mission is extremely risky," Varn cautioned. "If you're discovered, it could lead to an all-out war." Daniel nodded. "We understand the risks, but we have no choice. The Draken must be stopped." Under the cover of darkness, a small team of human and council operatives infiltrated the asteroid base. They moved stealthily through the corridors, avoiding patrols and security systems. Deep within the base, Daniel and his team found the Draken superweapon, a massive energy cannon capable of destroying entire planets. The weapon was nearly complete, and its power was awe-inspiring. "We need to disable this thing," Daniel whispered. "Set charges on the main power conduits. We can't let them use this." As the team set the charges, an alarm blared. They had been discovered. Draken soldiers poured into the chamber, weapons ready. "We're out of time," Daniel shouted. "Detonate the charges and fall back." The explosions rocked the base, sending shockwaves through the structure. The team fought their way back to their extraction point, narrowly escaping as the superweapons core went critical. The task force raced back to their ships, the base collapsing around them. Draken fighters pursued them, firing relentlessly as they attempted to escape. "Engage the enemy," Daniel ordered. "We need to buy time for our team to get clear." The human and council ships formed a defensive perimeter, returning fire and providing cover for the retreating operatives. The space around the asteroid was a maelstrom of laser fire and explosions. "We're clear," Lieutenant Avery reported. "Jump to hyperspace now." The task force's ships vanished into the void, leaving the destroyed Draken base behind. They had succeeded, but the cost had been high. Back on Ardentia, the successful mission was met with a mixture of relief and grief for those lost. The destruction of the superweapon was a significant blow to the Draken, but they were not defeated yet. "We've bought ourselves some time, but the Draken will retaliate," Daniel warned. "We need to be ready." The Galactic Council mobilized their forces, preparing for the inevitable counterattack. The human fleet worked tirelessly alongside their allies, strengthening defenses and planning strategic countermeasures. Days later, the Draken launched a massive assault on Ardentia. The battle was fierce, with both sides suffering heavy losses. Daniel's leadership and the unity of the human and council forces were put to the ultimate test. The Draken assault on Ardentia was relentless. The skies above the capital planet were filled with the deadly dance of starships, lasers crisscrossing in a deadly web. The human and council fleets fought valiantly, but the Draken were determined to break through. "Captain Ward, we have incoming Draken bombers targeting the capital city," Lieutenant Avery reported, her voice tense. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "We can't let them reach the surface. Scramble all fighter squadrons and intercept those bombers." The Intrepid launched its fighter wings, and the smaller ships streaked toward the incoming bombers. The ensuing dogfight was intense, with pilots on both sides displaying incredible skill and bravery. "Hold the line," Daniel commanded. "We need to buy time for the ground defenses to activate." On the surface, anti-aircraft batteries and defense turrets roared to life, creating a formidable barrier against the Draken assault. The civilians of Ardentia watched in fear and awe as the battle unfolded above them. "Captain, we've detected a massive Draken dreadnought entering the system," Avery said, her voice filled with urgency. "It's headed straight for us." Daniel's jaw tightened. "All ships, focus fire on that dreadnought. We need to take it down before it reaches the capital." The combined might of the human and council fleets turned their attention to the approaching behemoth. The dreadnought, bristling with weapons and shields, seemed unstoppable as it plowed through the defenders. "Keep up the pressure," Daniel shouted. "We can't let it reach the city." The dreadnought's shields flickered under the sustained assault, but it continued its relentless advance. Desperation set in as the massive ship loomed closer to the planet. "Prepare the ion cannons," Daniel ordered. "We're going to disable its shields and take it out." The Intrepid's ion cannons charged with energy, and with a precise volley, they struck the dreadnought's shields, causing them to flicker and fail. The combined fleets then unleashed a torrent of firepower, tearing through the dreadnought's hull. The massive ship exploded in a blinding flash of light, sending debris scattering across the battlefield. Cheers erupted from the defenders as the tide began to turn. With the destruction of the dreadnought, the morale of the human and council forces soared. They pressed their advantage, driving the Draken back with renewed determination. "Captain, the Draken are retreating," Lieutenant Avery reported, her voice filled with hope. Daniel allowed himself a brief moment of relief. "Good. Let's make sure they don't come back. Pursue and eliminate any remaining threats." The combined fleets launched a relentless counterattack, targeting the retreating Draken ships and chasing them out of the system. The battle for Ardentia had been won, but the war was far from over. As the last of the Draken ships jumped to hyperspace, the defenders regrouped and assessed the damage. The city had been spared, but the cost had been high. Many brave soldiers had given their lives to protect Ardentia. Counselor Varn addressed the survivors, his voice filled with gratitude and resolve. "Today we have shown the Draken that we will not be defeated. Our unity and strength have carried us through this dark hour, but we must remain vigilant and continue to stand together." Daniel stood beside him, pride and sorrow mingling in his heart. "We've taken a heavy blow, but we're still standing. We need to use this time to rebuild and strengthen our defenses." The days that followed were filled with efforts to repair the damage and fortify the planet's defenses. The human and council forces worked side by side, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. One evening, as Daniel and Varn surveyed the reconstruction efforts, a message arrived from the Draken defectors who had sought asylum. They had vital information about the Draken's next move. "Captain Ward, we've learned that the Draken are planning a final desperate assault on Earth," one of the defectors revealed. "They believe that if they can destroy your homeworld, the Alliance will crumble." Daniel's eyes hardened with determination. "We can't let that happen. We need to intercept them and end this war once and for all." The Galactic Council approved a daring plan to strike at the heart of the Draken's operations. With the intelligence provided by the defectors, the Alliance prepared for a decisive battle. "Captain Ward, you have led us through some of our darkest times," Counselor Varn said, placing a hand on Daniel's shoulder. "I have no doubt that you will lead us to victory." Daniel nodded, his resolve unwavering. "For Earth, for Ardentia, and for the future of the galaxy. We'll see this through to the end." As the fleet prepared to depart, Daniel addressed his crew one last time. "This is it, our final push. We've fought long and hard to get here, and now we stand on the brink of victory. Let's finish this fight and secure a future of peace for all." With that, the fleet set course for the Draken homeworld, ready to face their greatest challenge yet and bring an end to the war that had threatened the galaxy. The battle for the future was about to begin. The human and council fleets approached the Draken homeworld, a planet shrouded in darkness and fortified with formidable defenses. The tension aboard the UESF Intrepid was palpable as the ships exited hyperspace, the Draken stronghold looming ahead. "Captain Ward, we're detecting multiple enemy fleets in orbit around the planet," Lieutenant Avery reported. "They're ready for us." Daniel's gaze hardened as he took in the holographic display of the enemy formations. "All ships, form up and prepare for engagement. This is our chance to end this war. Let's make it count." The fleets moved into formation, and the space around the Draken homeworld erupted into chaos as the battle began. Laser fire and missile trails lit up the void, creating a deadly tapestry of destruction. "Focus on their command ships," Daniel ordered. We need to disrupt their coordination and create an opening for our ground forces. The combined might of the human and council fleets bore down on the Drake and command ships, targeting their key systems and inflicting heavy damage. Despite the overwhelming firepower, the Draken defenders fought with a ferocity born of desperation. "We've breached their outer defenses," Lieutenant Avery reported. "Our ground forces are ready to deploy." "Begin the landing operations," Daniel commanded. "We need to secure a foothold on the surface." Dropships and shuttles launched from the fleet, descending through the atmosphere toward the Draken stronghold. The skies were filled with anti-aircraft fire, and several dropships were hit before they could reach the ground. "Keep pushing," Daniel urged. "We can't afford to lose momentum now." The dropships touched down in a barren wasteland, their ramps lowering to reveal rows of armored soldiers ready for battle. Daniel led the charge, his determination unwavering as he sprinted toward the enemy fortifications. "Move out," he shouted, rallying his troops. "We need to take that command center and disable their defenses." The human and council soldiers stormed the Draken stronghold, their weapons blazing as they fought their way through the enemy ranks. The Draken defenders were fierce and relentless, but the Alliance troops fought with a tenacity fueled by the desire to end the war once and for all. As they pushed deeper into the stronghold, Daniel spotted the entrance to the command center, heavily guarded by elite Draken soldiers. "That's our target," he said, rallying his troops. "Take them down." The battle intensified as the Alliance forces closed in on the command center. Daniel fought with everything he had, his determination unyielding. With a final surge, they overpowered the Draken defenders and breached the entrance. Inside, the command center was a maze of corridors and control rooms. Daniel led his team through the facility, disabling security systems and neutralizing any remaining resistance. They reached the central control room where the Draken leadership awaited them. "Captain Ward, we need to secure the control room and disable their planetary defenses," Lieutenant Avery said, her voice tense. Daniel nodded, his focus razor-sharp. "Let's do this." The Alliance troops burst into the control room, taking the Draken leaders by surprise. A fierce firefight ensued, with blaster fire and explosions filling the air. Daniel and his team fought with relentless determination, their goal within reach. Finally, the last of the Draken defenders fell, and the control room was secured. Daniel approached the main console, quickly entering commands to disable the planetary defenses. "We've done it," Lieutenant Avery said, her voice filled with relief. "The defenses are down." Daniel allowed himself a brief moment of triumph. "Good work, everyone. But we're not done yet. We need to ensure the Draken leadership is neutralized, and their forces surrender." With the planetary defenses disabled, the Alliance fleet moved in to secure the remaining enemy positions. The Draken forces, realizing the futility of their situation, began to lay down their arms. Counselor Varn's voice came through the comms. "Captain Ward, we've received a communication from the Draken leadership. They're asking for terms of surrender." Daniel's heart swelled with a mixture of relief and pride. "Patch them through." The image of a weary Draken commander appeared on the screen, his expression one of resignation. "Captain Ward, Counselor Varn, we are prepared to surrender. We ask for mercy for our people." Daniel's voice was firm but fair. "Surrender your remaining forces and cease all hostilities. You will be treated with respect and given fair treatment under the laws of the Galactic Council." The Draken commander nodded. "We accept your terms." As the Draken forces stood down and the Alliance secured control of the planet, a sense of victory and hope began to spread. The war that had ravaged the galaxy was finally coming to an end. Back on the Intrepid, Daniel addressed his crew, his voice filled with emotion. "We've done it. We've brought an end to this war and secured a future of peace for all. This victory belongs to each and every one of you. Your bravery and determination have made this possible." The crew erupted in cheers, their spirits lifted by the triumph they had achieved. Daniel knew that the road ahead would be filled with challenges as they worked to rebuild and heal the wounds of war, but he was confident that the bonds forged in battle would carry them through. As the stars glittered above, Daniel and his team knew that their journey was far from over. But with the strength of their alliance and the determination to protect the future, they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. The Draken commander's image flickered and disappeared from the screen. The tension that had gripped the bridge of the Intrepid began to ease, replaced by a collective sigh of relief. The galaxy had endured years of relentless war, and now, at last, peace seemed within reach. "Captain Ward, the Draken forces are standing down," Lieutenant Avery reported, her voice filled with cautious optimism. "Our ships are moving in to secure their remaining positions." "Excellent work, everyone," Daniel replied. "Maintain defensive formations and ensure that all Draken vessels comply with the surrender terms. We can't afford any last-minute surprises." The Intrepid and the Allied fleets spread out, securing the remaining Draken ships and installations. On the ground, the Alliance troops rounded up the remaining Draken soldiers, ensuring that all weapons were deactivated and collected. As the day wore on, Daniel received an invitation to the formal surrender ceremony. The event would take place at the Draken capital, a city that had been largely untouched by the war, but was now swarming with Alliance soldiers ensuring security. Counselor Varn accompanied Daniel to the ceremony. The atmosphere in the Draken capital was tense, a mixture of relief and uncertainty. The Draken people, weary of the war, watched as their leaders prepared to officially end the conflict. In the grand hall of the Draken leadership, Daniel and Varn stood across from the Draken commander and his aides. The once proud Draken leaders now looked haggard and defeated. "Captain Ward," the Draken commander began, his voice heavy with resignation. "On behalf of the Draken people, we formally surrender to the Galactic Council and the human forces. We pledge to cease all hostilities and cooperate fully with the terms of the peace agreement." Daniel nodded solemnly. "The Galactic Council accepts your surrender. Together, we will work to rebuild and ensure that such a conflict never happens again." The formal documents were signed, and the ceremony concluded with a sense of finality. The war was over, but the work of rebuilding and reconciliation was just beginning. With the war officially ended, the focus shifted to rebuilding the devastated worlds and mending the fractured relationships between the various species of the galaxy. The Galactic Council established a joint task force to oversee the reconstruction efforts, and Captain Daniel Ward was appointed as one of its key leaders. Back on Ardentia, the council chambers buzzed with activity. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy gathered to discuss plans for reconstruction, resource allocation, and diplomatic initiatives to ensure lasting peace. "Captain Ward, your leadership during the war was exemplary," Counselor Varn said during a meeting. "We believe you are the best person to lead the efforts in restoring trust and cooperation among the different species." Daniel felt the weight of the responsibility, but accepted the challenge with determination. "Thank you, Counselor. I will do everything in my power to ensure that we build a lasting peace." The first step in the rebuilding process was to address the immediate needs of the war-torn planets. Supplies were dispatched to the most devastated areas, and teams of engineers, doctors, and diplomats were sent to provide aid and support. One of the most significant challenges was to integrate the Draken people into the new order. There was still a deep-seated mistrust and resentment among the other species, and Daniel knew that bridging this divide would be crucial for lasting peace. He traveled to the Draken homeworld, where he met with community leaders, families, and former soldiers. He listened to their stories, their fears, and their hopes for the future. Slowly but surely, he began to build a rapport with them, showing that the Alliance was committed to a fair and just peace. In a large community meeting, a Draken elder spoke up. "We have lived through much suffering and loss. How can we be sure that we will not be oppressed or forgotten in this new order?" Daniel addressed the crowd, his voice firm but compassionate. "The war has brought pain to all of us, but now we have a chance to create something better. We are committed to equality and justice for all species. Together we can rebuild and ensure a future where everyone thrives." His words were met with cautious acceptance, and over time trust began to grow. Draken engineers worked alongside humans and other species to rebuild infrastructure. Draken children attended newly established schools where they learned about cooperation and unity. The Galactic Council initiated cultural exchange programs, encouraging the sharing of traditions, art, and history. These initiatives helped to break down barriers and foster mutual respect and understanding. Back on the Intrepid, Daniel and his crew continued to play a vital role in maintaining security and supporting reconstruction efforts. Lieutenant Avery, now promoted to commander, worked tirelessly by his side, ensuring that their missions were successful. One evening, as the two stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars, Avery spoke up. "Captain, it's incredible how far we've come. From the brink of annihilation to a hopeful future. It's all because of your leadership." Daniel smiled. placing a hand on her shoulder. It's because of all of us, Avery. Every single person who fought, who sacrificed, who believed in a better future. This is our victory. As the stars glittered above, Daniel knew that their journey was far from over. The galaxy still faced many challenges, but with unity and determination, they could overcome anything. Together, they would continue to protect and nurture the peace they had fought so hard to achieve. As the galaxy began to heal, the alliance continued to strengthen. However, the scars of war were deep, and distrust still lingered among many species. It was during this time that an unexpected ally emerged, bringing hope for further reconciliation. One day, while overseeing reconstruction efforts on a remote outpost, Daniel received an urgent message from Lieutenant Commander Avery. "Captain Ward, we've received a communication from an unlikely source," Avery said, her expression a mix of curiosity and caution. "A group of Draken defectors claims to have vital information about rogue elements still loyal to the old regime." Daniel frowned. "Patch them through. Let's hear what they have to say." The screen flickered to reveal the face of a Draken officer, his expression solemn but determined. "Captain Ward, I am Commander Thrak. We were once part of the Draken military, but we no longer support the tyranny of our former leaders. We have information that could help prevent a resurgence of their influence." Daniel leaned forward, his interest piqued. "Go on, Commander Thrak. What do you know?" Thrak explained that a faction of hardline Draken loyalists, unwilling to accept defeat, had gone underground. They were planning to strike at the heart of the newly formed Galactic Defense League to destabilize the fragile peace. "They have a hidden base on the edge of Draken space," Thrak continued. "We can help you locate it and provide intelligence on their operations, but we need your protection in return." Daniel nodded, recognizing the significance of this offer. "We'll provide safe passage and protection for you and your people. In return, we need full cooperation and detailed information." With the information provided by Commander Thrak, Daniel and his team devised a plan to infiltrate the rogue Draken base. The mission was dangerous, but it was crucial to dismantle this threat before it could destabilize the peace they had fought so hard to achieve. "Captain, we've pinpointed the location of the base," Avery reported. "It's heavily fortified, but we have a clear approach thanks to Thrak's intel." Daniel addressed his team, his voice filled with determination. "This mission is critical. We need to move quickly and efficiently. Our goal is to disable their operations and capture their leaders. Let's move out." The Intrepid and a small strike team set course for the hidden base. They approached under the cover of darkness, using stealth technology to avoid detection. As they neared the base, Daniel and his team prepared for the infiltration. "Remember, our priority is to disable their communications and weapons systems," Daniel reminded his team. "We need to cut off their ability to coordinate and strike." The strike team landed just outside the base, moving silently through the shadows. They split into groups, each tasked with a specific objective. Daniel led the main team toward the control center, while Avery's group targeted the communications hub. As they infiltrated the base, they encountered pockets of resistance. The rogue Draken soldiers fought fiercely, but the element of surprise was on the Alliance's side. Daniel's team advanced steadily, overcoming each obstacle with precision and teamwork. In the control center, Daniel and his team encountered the rogue leaders. A tense standoff ensued, with blasters drawn and the air thick with anticipation. "You're surrounded," Daniel declared. "Surrender now and we can end this peacefully." The rogue leader, a hardened Draken general, sneered. "We will never bow to your weak alliance. Draken will rise again." Before he could give the order to attack, Daniel's team sprang into action. A brief but intense firefight erupted, with blaster fire lighting up the control room. The Alliance forces quickly gained the upper hand, subduing the rogue leaders and securing the area. "Control center secure," Daniel reported. "Avery, how's your team doing?" Avery's voice came through the comms, calm and focused. "Communications hub is down. They can't call for reinforcements." With the base's defenses disabled and the rogue leaders captured, the remaining Draken soldiers began to surrender. The mission was a success, and the threat of a resurgence had been neutralized. Back on the Intrepid, Daniel debriefed with Commander Thrak. "You've done a great service to the galaxy today, Commander. Your bravery and cooperation have helped prevent a disaster." Thrak nodded, a glint of hope in his eyes. "We only wish to see a peaceful future for all. Perhaps this is the beginning of true reconciliation." As the Alliance forces secured the base and began to dismantle the rogue operations, Daniel felt a renewed sense of optimism. The successful mission had not only neutralized a significant threat, but it also strengthened the bonds of trust between former enemies. Counselor Varn addressed the Alliance, praising their efforts. Today, we have shown that unity and cooperation can overcome even the most entrenched divisions. Let this victory be a testament to our shared commitment to peace. Daniel stood beside him, his heart swelling with pride. We've come a long way, but there's still much to do. Together, we will build a future where all species can thrive in harmony. With the rogue threat eliminated and the Alliance stronger than ever, the path to a lasting peace seemed clearer. Daniel and his team were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, confident in their ability to protect the fragile peace they had fought so hard to achieve. With the rogue Draken threat neutralized, the Galactic Council focused on consolidating peace and rebuilding trust across the galaxy. However, as the Alliance continued its efforts, whispers of hidden agendas and ulterior motives began to surface. Captain Daniel Ward and Lieutenant Commander Avery were summoned to a high-level meeting on Ardentia. Counselor Varn, along with other key representatives, looked tense as they began the discussion. Captain Ward, recent intelligence reports indicate that some factions within the Council may be working against our efforts, Varn said, his voice grave. We need you to investigate and identify any threats from within. Daniel nodded, his expression serious. We can't afford any internal conflicts that could undermine our progress. We'll get to the bottom of this. Daniel and Avery began their investigation, starting with a review of the intelligence reports. They identified several council members whose actions and decisions had been suspicious, hinting at possible collusion with hostile forces. Their first stop was the office of Counselor Harrick, a prominent member known for his opposition to human involvement in the council. As they approached, they overheard a heated conversation between Harrick and an unknown individual. I don't care what the others think. We must act now before the humans consolidate their power. Harrick's voice was filled with urgency. Daniel and Avery exchanged a glance before stepping into the office. Counselor Harrick, we need to speak with you, Daniel said, his tone authoritative. Harrick's eyes widened with surprise and anger. What is the meaning of this intrusion? We have reason to believe you're involved in activities that threaten the stability of the Council, Avery stated. We need to see your communications and records. Harrick bristled but reluctantly complied. As they reviewed the documents, it became clear that Harrick had been in contact with several anti-human factions, providing them with sensitive information. This is treason, Daniel said, his voice cold. You're coming with us, Counselor. Harrick was taken into custody, and further investigation revealed a network of individuals working to destabilize the Council's efforts. Daniel and Avery worked tirelessly to root out these elements, ensuring that the Alliance remained strong and unified. With the internal threats neutralized, the focus returned to securing the peace and addressing the remaining Draken loyalists scattered across the galaxy. Intelligence reports indicated that the remnants of the Draken forces were regrouping for a final desperate assault on the Alliance's key worlds. Captain Ward, we've detected significant Draken activity near the edges of our territory, Lieutenant Commander Avery reported. They're planning something big. Daniel's eyes narrowed. We need to strike first and take them out before they can execute their plans, assemble the fleet and prepare for immediate deployment. The Intrepid and the Allied fleet set course for the Draken staging area. As they approached, they were met with a formidable armada of Draken ships ready for battle. The final confrontation was at hand. All units engage the enemy, Daniel ordered. We need to break through their lines and neutralize their command ships. The battle erupted with ferocity, the void of space filled with the deadly exchange of laser fire and explosions. The Alliance forces fought with determination, knowing that the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Focus on their flagships, Daniel directed. If we can take out their leadership, the rest will fall into disarray. The Intrepid led a daring assault on the Draken flagship, its weapons targeting key systems and defenses. The Draken forces retaliated fiercely, but the Alliance ships pressed their advantage. We're taking heavy fire, Captain, Avery reported. But we're holding our ground. Daniel nodded, his focus unwavering. We can't let them regroup. Keep up the pressure. As the battle raged on, the Draken flagship began to falter under the relentless assault. Explosions rocked its hull, and its defenses started to crumble. Captain, we've breached their command center, Avery announced. "The Draken leaders are exposed. Prepare a boarding party," Daniel commanded. "We're taking them down." Daniel led the boarding party himself, fighting his way through the Draken defenders to reach the command center. The Draken leaders, cornered and desperate, fought back with everything they had. The final confrontation was intense, with blasters firing and hand-to-hand combat erupting in the confined space. Daniel and his team pushed forward, their determination unyielding. With a decisive strike, Daniel incapacitated the Draken commander, securing the command center. The remaining Draken forces, seeing their leaders defeated, began to surrender. "Captain Ward, the Draken forces are retreating," Avery reported. "We've won." Daniel took a deep breath, the weight of the victory settling in. "We did it. The galaxy is safe." Back on the Intrepid, the crew celebrated their hard-fought victory. Counselor Varn addressed the fleet, his voice filled with pride and hope. "Today we have secured a lasting peace for our galaxy. Thanks to the bravery and determination of our forces, we can now look to the future with confidence." Daniel stood beside him, reflecting on the journey they had undertaken. The challenges had been immense, but the bonds forged in battle and the unity they had achieved would ensure a brighter future for all. As the stars glittered above, Daniel knew that the work of rebuilding and maintaining peace would continue. But with the strength of their alliance and the determination to protect the future, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With the Draken threat neutralized and the rogue factions within the Council rooted out, the galaxy could finally begin to heal. The Allied forces returned to their respective homeworlds to begin the long process of rebuilding. Captain Daniel Ward and Lieutenant Commander Avery were at the forefront of these efforts, ensuring that the fragile peace was maintained and that trust between species continued to grow. The Galactic Council convened on Ardentia to discuss the future. Leaders from every corner of the galaxy gathered to plan for a new era of cooperation and mutual support. Daniel was invited to speak before the assembly, his role as a key figure in securing peace well recognized. "Counselors, representatives, and friends," Daniel began, his voice resonating with a mix of humility and resolve. "We have faced unimaginable challenges and overcome tremendous obstacles to reach this point. Our unity and determination have brought us victory, but our work is far from over. We must now focus on building a future where all species can thrive together." The assembly listened intently as Daniel outlined his vision for the future. He spoke of joint exploration missions, cultural exchanges, and scientific collaborations that would strengthen the bonds between the various species. His words were met with applause and approval, the Council eager to embrace this new era. As the meeting concluded, Counselor Varn approached Daniel with a proposal. "Captain Ward, your leadership has been instrumental in bringing us to this moment. We would like you to lead a new initiative, a Galactic Unity Task Force, to oversee the ongoing efforts to maintain peace and foster cooperation." Daniel felt a surge of pride and responsibility. "I would be honored, Counselor. Together we will ensure that the sacrifices made during the war were not in vain." The establishment of the Galactic Unity Task Force marked the beginning of a new chapter for the galaxy. Daniel and his team, including Avery, worked tirelessly to implement the initiatives discussed at the Council meeting. Their efforts led to remarkable advancements in technology, healthcare, and education across the member worlds. One of their first major projects was the construction of the Galactic Unity Station, a massive space station that would serve as a hub for diplomacy, research, and commerce. Representatives from every species contributed to its design and construction, symbolizing their commitment to a shared future. As the station neared completion, a grand inauguration ceremony was planned. Leaders from across the galaxy gathered to witness the unveiling of this monumental achievement. Daniel, Avery, and Counselor Varn stood together on the platform, ready to address the assembly. "Today we stand united in our commitment to peace and progress," Daniel said, his voice filled with emotion. "The Galactic Unity Station is not just a symbol of our cooperation, but a beacon of hope for future generations. Together, we will explore the unknown, share our knowledge, and build a brighter future for all." The crowd erupted in applause, their excitement and optimism palpable. As the ceremony continued, Daniel took a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought them here. The battles fought, the alliances forged, and the sacrifices made had all led to this moment of triumph. Later that evening, As Daniel and Avery walked through the bustling corridors of the new station, they marveled at the diversity and harmony around them. Scientists from different worlds collaborated on groundbreaking research, diplomats discussed new trade agreements, and families enjoyed the vibrant, multicultural environment. "It's incredible to see how far we've come," Avery said, her eyes shining with pride. "This is the future we fought for." Daniel nodded, his heart swelling with hope. "And it's only the beginning. There will always be challenges, but as long as we stand together, we can overcome anything." As they looked out at the stars from the observation deck, Daniel knew that the journey ahead would be filled with new adventures and discoveries. The galaxy was vast and full of possibilities, and with unity and determination, they would continue to protect and nurture the peace they had achieved. Together, Daniel and his team faced the future with unwavering resolve, ready to lead the galaxy into a new era of cooperation and prosperity. Their legacy of bravery, leadership, and unity would inspire generations to come, ensuring that the light of peace would shine brightly across the stars.